Hey guys, welcome back. I hope you're having an amazing day. Let's get right into the stories. The first story is titled, Am I the A-hole? Asking my wife to pay for my daughter's birthday. My wife Maddie and I have been together for 5 years. I have a daughter, Rachel, who's 14, and a son, Mitch, who's 11, from my previous relationship, and a stepdaughter, Talia, who's 14. We always had separate finances and originally had similar paying jobs. While hers has become better than mine, we have stayed as we are, aside from shared expenses being split more equally. Around 7 months ago, we found out Rachel is sick. I've been doing everything I can for her, trying to help her, and the best treatment I can afford. But the issue is, I can't. I'm draining my savings and can barely afford more basic treatment. I can pay for necessities and treatment, but nothing else. Maddie has been financially fine throughout. She's paying more of the necessities, but she's constantly buying Talia things, taking her out, letting her do things that I can't do for either of my children. I know we agreed to have separate finances, and it's not wrong per se, but it's causing some conflict, though. I've tried hard to work it out. I know that it's my responsibility, but it's just not working well. I can't afford extracurriculars or for them to go out with friends or special dinners or anything. Rachel's birthday is coming up, and I want to do something nice while we can. I asked Maddie for help if she can cover her birthday because I can't. But Maddie refused. She is paying almost all the essentials and doesn't think she should have to pay for this. That she knows I can't pay her back, and it's my responsibility. I understand all that, but it's not fair. I'm not asking for my own sake. Rachel and Mitch are already missing out on so much, and I know how horrible Rachel feels. I just want this one good special night for her. Comment said, You're not an a-hole for asking. She's not an a-hole for sticking to your original arrangement. Plus, you said she's paying all the essentials, so it sounds like she's already contributing to shared expenses. Guilt-tripping her would make you an a-hole. That being said, I'm curious about your relationship with each other's stepkids. There's a difference between separate finances and separate families. Your wife has known Rachel for 5 years. Do they not have a connection at this point? Other comments said, not the a-hole. Refusing to pay for your sick stepchild's birthday when you are perfectly capable of doing so is pretty harsh, though I think it's time you and your wife sit down for a more serious conversation, as one part of the family enjoying a much nicer lifestyle than the other is going to start fostering resentment, especially between the kids. The next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for the way I shut down my cousin's wife? I'm a 26-year-old female. Don't remember how exactly, but when I was in my early teens, I found a great way to shut down rude people. I was overweight in a family of skinny people, so whenever we all met, at least a couple people would tell me, Oh, you put on some weight since we last saw you. One day, I just started replying with, That's rude, don't you think? People got upset at first, but when my parents backed me up, they learned to leave me alone. Over the years, I would reply with something along those lines whenever someone asks or says something they shouldn't. My cousin brought his wife to the family home, the grandparents, for Thanksgiving. This is the first time that we met. They live in another state, met and married during the pandemic. We were talking around the table when it was brought up that I changed jobs. I left my father's business for something that uses my degree. Everyone was congratulating me for finally having a foot in the door and saying that I would have a great career. Then my cousin's wife, out of nowhere, says that I should have been more loyal to my father, that helping him is better and more fulfilling than chasing after a career in my field. So I told her, Thank you for the unsolicited opinion on my life. She got upset, and more so when no one rebuked me. Then she said I was just trying to be helpful, and I replied, and I was just trying to tell you that you were rude. She got more upset and left the room, but my cousin called me a petty a-hole and said that I should know better than to be an idiot to someone who was just stating an opinion. I fired back, and I was also just stating an opinion. It's not my fault she couldn't handle it. Now that I had a couple of days to think back on it, I feel like an a-hole for ruining Thanksgiving and making everyone feel awkward. So am I the a-hole? Comment said, not the a-hole. You have learned to brush off rude, unwanted comments. But she is a bit of a snowflake in that she is unable to deal with criticism. But if you can't take it, you shouldn't be dealing it out. Also, who meets extended family for the first time and immediately makes a deeply personal comment? I am imagining she is fairly entitled, unpleasant, and socially awkward. Another comment said, not the a-hole. First, was it really just an unsolicited opinion? Because her wording comes off like she's trying to tell you what to do or shame you for your decision. And this was your first meeting of her. Does she lack tact? Sure seems like it. And her comment that she was just trying to be helpful sounds like an attempt to save face. I'm also bothered that instead of just apologizing, she got more upset and left the room for your cousin to deal with it. I don't think you ruined Thanksgiving. You're not the one that said something so rude and thoughtless. The next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for ruining my wife's birthday by catering to my mom, who I admit is a crappy mother-in-law? My wife and I currently live with my mom. It is super embarrassing, and believe me, we are trying to get out. But we had no option at the moment. My mom and my wife have never gotten along, and my mom is a pretty crappy mother-in-law. I am on my wife's side 100% and shut it down when my mom starts. Sunday was my wife's birthday, and my wife is huge on birthdays. We had a whole day planned, and I had some extra surprises. I know from previous years that she has sky-high expectations for birthdays and gets disappointed if there is any setback. We were getting ready to go out and my mom fell down the stairs. It was totally her fault. She was running in heels. Obviously, we both went to her, but she was adamant that she didn't need help. I told her she needed to go to the emergency room as she couldn't move her wrist and was quite literally withering in pain. I felt I had to offer to drive her as she can't drive with one arm, and I've heard you can't Uber if you're clearly injured for liability reasons. I saw my wife's face fall, but I felt like, what was I supposed to do? My mom declined, and I asked how she was going to get there. She said she didn't know, but she didn't want a ride from me. So we went out for the day, but my wife told me I was insensitive for asking. When we returned home to change for our big evening out, my mom was back from the hospital. She was looking for something to eat but hadn't done the week's shopping and was struggling to find something she could get on her own. I offered to make her something. At first she declined, but then gave in. When my wife came down, I said I'd be ready in a few minutes, and she looked incredibly hurt. It was just grilled cheese, and it didn't take that long. Also, my mom had been at the ER for hours and hadn't eaten. Before we left, I asked if she needed anything, and she said no. The moment we got to the car, my wife accused me of catering to my awful mother on her birthday. I pointed out that it was an unforeseen emergency, and she told me my mother's being stupid and running downstairs shouldn't be my priority. She said my mom has her own partner. He was out of state and did offer to fly home, but wouldn't have made it until early the next morning. Anyway, so still couldn't have given her a ride or made her dinner. And she can't forgive me for making her second fiddle to mom on her birthday. Comment said, your wife is unhinged. If she is this callous towards your mother, no wonder their relationship is strained. She's as much to blame for that as your mom. Obviously, I don't know what your mom does to upset her so much. But hating her so much that her husband isn't supposed to provide emergency medical intervention and support for his mom? Sorry, but your wife is heavily entitled and off her rocker. Not the a-hole. Another comment said, not the a-hole. On your mother's birthday, if your wife fell down the stairs, she'd want you to help her, right? She'd want you to cater to her injuries because an injury takes precedent over a birthday. It's no different. You can reschedule a birthday celebration, but what if mother-in-law had a concussion or something? Time is important with things like this. Your wife will not get brain damage from rescheduling. It's a really weird thing to get mad about. The next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for not letting mother-in-law see sick daughter after she started bullying her? I'm a male 36, have a daughter who's 12. 2 weeks ago, she got diagnosed with leukemia. I'm a single dad. My wife passed away when our daughter was 2. My mother-in-law, who's 60, lives 3 hours away, but comes to visit often. My mother-in-law always wanted a girly daughter. My wife was not into traditionally girly things. Neither is my daughter. That doesn't stop mother-in-law from buying her dresses and other things she will never use. About 5 days ago, daughter asked if she could maybe dye her hair because it'll fall out soon anyway. I figured why not? I talked to a friend who works at a salon. Now, my daughter has super cool blue hair. She had the biggest smile on her face when she saw her new cool hair. Mother-in-law came to visit yesterday. She freaked out once she saw my daughter's hair. She was saying daughter had such beautiful blonde hair, and now it's ugly. Daughter instantly got teary-eyed. Chemo has already been emotionally exhausting for her. She didn't need her grandma making comments like that. I made mother-in-law go into the hallway. We were at the hospital. I told her that was so wrong to call daughter ugly. She started saying, well, it is ugly. I cut her off and said, just leave then. If you aren't going to say anything nice. Well, she left and I hugged my daughter and told her she was beautiful. I later got texts from my brother-in-law asking me why I made mother-in-law leave. I explained the situation. Brother-in-law said it was still an a-hole move not to let mother-in-law see daughter, and that I probably shouldn't let my 12-year-old have dyed her hair anyway. So am I the a-hole? Comment said, not the a-hole. I'm guessing your daughter doesn't want to see her grandma now. If and when she wants to see her again, you should have a firm talk with grandma about what is appropriate to say to someone else. Seeing people is not a given right, and commenting on other people's looks is a safe way to get cut off. Bet your daughter is rocking that blue, though. Another comment said, not the a-hole. Your daughter needs to be raised up, not torn down. If your mother-in-law can't put her granddaughter's needs above her own likes for appearance, she should stay away. Chemo is ugly, and it ruins a person in every way possible. If she can't hold her tongue over blue hair, what is she going to say when her hair falls out? Or when she's so drugged and tired from chemo and she looks it? I would lay down some law for mother-in-law, because it's not about her and what she likes or wants. It's about that girl going through the worst part of her life, needing to be surrounded by people who care enough about her to raise her up and hold her up. The last story is titled, My Favorite I'm Married to the Owner Story. Cass, K, Karen, B, boss, L, landlord. Okay, so I work at a large chain pizza place, but in a smaller town that no one really knows exists. Only carry out and delivery. Now, for this story to make sense, the store has a landlord, but also my boss is considered the owner of this store, even though it's a chain restaurant. Two different people, though, that own this building. So this Karen comes in one morning while I'm the manager on shift, and the only person there is my delivery driver. Driver's a 20-year-old male. I'm a 24-year-old female, but I honestly look very young. This was like last month or so, and we aren't allowed to have any customers come indoors. We walk to their car because of COVID, so I politely informed Kay that she can't come indoors, and I'll be more than happy to assist her in her car. Kay, that won't be necessary. I'm allowed in here. Me, no ma'am, we aren't allowed to have any customers indoors per COVID. We could get temporarily shut down if so. Kay, my husband's the owner, so just take my order. Now, L isn't married, he comes around a lot, and he's very young, like my age. I think he inherited all the properties he owns. And B is married to the absolute sweetest person I've ever known, and they both live an hour away in a different state. Karen is like mid-40s and not the sweet woman I have known for years. Me, ma'am, I'm very sorry, but you're not married to the owner. I'm going to need for you to step outside of the store, and I would be more than happy to assist you outside. K, ducking excuses with me? I can get you fired, you little idiot. Me, okay, I hope you do. But I still need you to step outside of the store so I can take your order. K, I won't take this treatment. K, I'll call the owner and get you fired. Me, okay. While you do that, I'm going to call the actual owner so he can tell you to step outside of the store. Kay grabs her phone and starts calling someone. I call B and explain the situation. While I'm talking, Kay interrupts me to say, yeah, he says you're fired. You're too young to really be working here anyway. I don't know why he hired a child to work, but you don't work here anymore. B overhears this and starts laughing and asks to be put on speakerphone. Ma'am, I'm the owner of the store, and I would never allow my wife who's sitting next to me to come into the store during the pandemic. It's a violation of current health laws, and we have the right to call authorities if necessary. Please step outside the door. Karen is like screeching that it's the other owner, L, but she calls him by the wrong name. B started laughing again because L has no control over the actual store. He just owns the building and we pay him rent. L also is currently right outside working on the roof. So at this point I say, oh, I didn't know L got married. I'll go congratulate him. Come on, let's go. So I walk outside and K is following me, calling me a child, idiot, etc. Me, hey L, do you mind coming down for a second? Kay looks absolutely mortified at this point. She ducked up and she knows it. But nah, I keep rolling with it. At this point, L came down from the ladder, confused as hell. Me, hey L, your new wife here says you just fired me and that she's allowed indoors. Now, I didn't know you got married. I'm so happy for you. L, ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to get the duck off my property. I have no authority to fire anyone, and you're already being an idiot. L puts up with absolutely nothing and is protected over me. K mumbles something I still can't understand and then says, I can't believe a ducking teenager is doing this crap to me, and turns to go to her car. L, she's older than me, and she has far more patience than I do. Don't ever come back into my ducking property. Now K just calls and asks for delivery, which I will happily do. Elle and I still laugh about it all the time. I sadly didn't get to do the whole, oh, you'd like to speak to the manager? That's me thing, but I have plenty of those stories. Thank you for watching. I'd really appreciate it if you could like the video and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. We'll see you again tomorrow.